Hey, good morning. We are here again for our December CTE webinar, and we welcome all of you. It looks like we have quite a large audience today, and we thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. We do have a full agenda today with our folks from the KSDE CTE area. So we have lots of updates for you. We'll be starting out with Gayla. She'll be addressing some topics with the CTE Scholars program, as well as any updates in her program area. Jay Scott will be joining us as well, giving us some new pathway changes and updates there. Angie Feyh will be joining us to help out with some of the information on working on your pathways and maybe some common errors that are surfacing as she sees those starting to be populated. Peggy Torrens will be joining us today on talking about some of the statewide articulation agreements and any updates from her particular area. We have Martin Kollman joining us today, and he'll be again giving us updates from the health science area as well as the Kansas Career Navigator program. We introduced that earlier, and we're just looking for some updates as that program is developing. Natalie Clark will be joining us with updates from the business area, and also she will be sharing some information. We've got some job shadow programs. And then Stacy Smith will be joining us as well, giving us updates from media technology. And of course, each one of these consultants may be adding other areas or topics that maybe I haven't mentioned here, but this is our day to kind of touch base with the KSD folks and get those latest updates. We do have quite a few of you on, so you might want to give your speakers your mics as we have people presenting. And we'll go with, of course, we have Jody here with us and Cleela. And Jody will be kind of taking care of putting out some of the resources. So don't hesitate to go back to our agenda and look at the resource list that is there. The PowerPoints have been posted there along with some of the handouts that the consultants will be referring to today. So Gayla, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and let you get started this morning. We welcome you all and thank you again for taking time to join us today.
There. First of all, can you hear me?
Not very well.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Can you hear me better now?
We can't hear you here.
Okay. Can anyone else hear?
No, we're getting some yes and some very light maybe.
Okay.
Okay, hear you now.
We're going to look to see if maybe it was on our end. So just a minute.
No.
Okay. I'm not very good at sign language, so I don't think you want me to start until we are able to see what's the issue on our end.
We're able to hear you now. So how about everybody else? If you could give us a thumbs up on your screen if you're hearing us, that would be a great sign. Gayla, looks like you're good. Everything's good.
Okay, so people can hear me now. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I want to share that I have another meeting that I need to leave for, so I apologize for leaving when I'm finished. If you have any questions for me after I'm done, you can either get those to Joni, and I know that she will send them to me, or you can send them to me directly, depending on if it's something everyone needs to know or if it's just an individual question. As far as the pathway updates in my area, please ensure that everyone is aware that the visual arts, apparel, and textiles and design level has a couple new courses.
So it'll last for at least a
Excuse me, Dee Hauser, would you mind muting your mic, please?
Okay. Okay, so there's 2 new apparel production courses in the visual arts, fashion apparel, and interior design strand. There are some schools who have not noted those additions. Those are setting us up for a more major review of that pathway as we work more strongly with industry in the state of Kansas, in particular Wichita and Kansas City. The other thing I will mention to you is that we have noted there was an error in the restaurant event management pathway. And we're having to pull that and align the links. So if you're looking to work on your update for that pathway, you won't be able to get the final copy of the competencies at this point. Partly because we have our, well, Mary Ward, who did all of our posting, retired, and we are in the middle of figuring out and training and that sort of thing. So if you want that directly for your usage, that should be up by the end of next week. Apologize for the problems on that end. That's really the only changes that I have to report at this time. We will be looking at and exploring the travel and tourism and restaurant event management pathways to see, do we really need to, or with two strands under restaurant event management, or really should restaurant event management be one strand and then the other strand is related to the travel and tourism area. So do watch for some information related to that. I am going to go right into the CT Scholar if there's no questions.
I did have a question about the pathways, which ones that you were referring to very first part, because you were cut out as people were joining the webinar here this morning. So if you could just kind of briefly go back through the two pathways, the one with the error in it,
okay.
Area with the production.
The visual arts, fashion, apparel, and interior design has 2 new courses that are in place for next year, but that entire pathway strand will be revisited this year. So watch for some more major changes that will start in 17-18, or excuse me, 18-19. The other thing is the restaurant event management pathway. We have errors in some of the competency sheets, so we're having to pull those and realign the new competency sheets and then get that pathway linkage up and running again, and we should have that by the end of next week.
Okay, thank you so much for reviewing those again.
And I apologize for that. It was an error we did not find until about 3 weeks ago, and in order to correct it, we have to recreate the actual pathway competency sheet document and then get it relinked. So with Mary Ward retiring, she was our go-to person who was a whiz at that sort of thing, and we don't have her anymore, so we've had to figure it out ourselves, and obviously we're not as smart as Mary Ward. Or I'm not, anyway. So with that stated, is it fine to go on to the CTE Scholar?
Yes, I believe so. Thank you.
Okay. The CTE Scholar is something we have really tossed around here for a good year, I think.
Yeah.
We actually...
She's rolling on her desk here.
I don't want to roll that away either.
I think we need some of the local areas to mute their microphones. We're getting a huge feedback on our end. How about on your end, Joni?
Yes, we heard that. So again, a reminder.
Blood pressure.
Over and mute your mic.
Maybe we all need a dose.
Okay. I think maybe they muted their mics now, so I'll start over. So the CTE Scholar idea in Kansas, we've actually been discussing for quite some time. We actually had this idea before the President of the United States did, but we didn't quite know what it should look like. And now we have an idea, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. The Kansas CTE Scholar is really to recognize those very well-rounded, outstanding CTE students. We're calling it a CTE Scholar because we feel that they need to be recognized for their work in the career and technical education field, but we know that that is different than an academic scholar somewhat. So, but we did want to use the same terminology because we want it to have the same recognition at the local and state level. There's a logo that we have developed. That's a series of circles with a large star, meaning they are the star of their work. And the circles are to mimic the Kansans, not the Kansans can necessarily, but the CTE Leading That Works for Kansas logo that we've been asked from a national level, advanced CTE group to use to show how the entire nation is linked for CTE. It says Kansas CTE Scholar within the middle, and that will actually be made into a pin, and I'll tell you about that here in a minute. There are several criteria that a student would have to meet, and they would meet this locally, and then there'll be certain items that you would submit to us in the spring. Then we would turn around and send you some items for recognition, and again, I will get to that in a minute. The criteria, first of all, is that the student will have to take at least 3 credits in the CTE field and have technical documentation to document their skill training and their skill development. Those skills that they could document from what we think is one of 4 areas that should fit that student's. One is an end of pathway assessment they have successfully completed. One is earning a certification that has value to the workforce. Demonstrated exemplary skills through a CTSO by recognition at the state level, state achievement, and or 80% competency achievement that's been validated by industry. And I know there'll be more information related to that piece. But the student will have to have completed 3 full credits first, and then also the technical documentation. We are suggesting, at least here for the first year, that this is a senior level award, and then we'll be open for conversation if this needs to be open to, say, juniors. But at this point, it's a senior level award. They also would then be asked to achieve a 3.5 GPA in their CTE coursework. So this is not an cumulative GPA with all their coursework, but their career and technical education coursework. We also are asking that they have proof of demonstrated leadership skills through a letter of recommendation from someone who's seen those skills in action. We ask that the student has had 25 or more community engagement hours, work experience that's documented, and then also submit a career summary statement. Both of those have a limit of 175 words so that just the most outstanding work or the most workforce aligned work is included in that, rather than a very lengthy document, which may be very difficult for some students to do, to really justify what they consider is a better recommendation or example of the work they've done. The recognition will include a personalized letter from KSDE that will be sent to the school for the student to receive. There will be a pin that will be made that will be the logo. It won't be color logo, it will be a flat colored metal. There'll be a sample reading for the school to use if they award this, which we're encouraging at a school-wide or community-wide event. It could be graduation, it could be an award night, it could be a special event you're just doing for career and technical education. That's really a local decision, but we'll have some sample script for that. The recipient list and a statewide news release will be sent out across the state to the local and state public relation and media sources. So we're hoping that will gain some national or some state and local attention for your CTE scholars, and then there'll be a certificate. And on the back of the certificate will be the criteria and also the status as far as the award really meaning a lot to KSDE. And that then could be shown to future employers. We are looking at expanding the benefits of being a CTE scholar by mentoring post-secondary institutions to accept and recognize the Kansas CTE scholars having value, possibly pre-qualification for certain scholarships or automatic recognition for entry into certain departments or something like that. So again, this is a brand new thing we're developing here through the CTE team at KSDE, and we just think it's going to go to great places. And we've needed something for a long time in order to get the recognition for our outstanding, well-rounded CTE scholars. Questions?
I think there was a question on the chat if these slides will be available to you all, and yes, they will be. We'll put them out along with, we do archive all of our broadcasts, so you can always come back and gain this information. So we'll make sure that those get out to you. Thank you. Any questions for Gayla?
Yes.
I just said, are there any other questions? And I think Jody just posted the link to your PowerPoint. So those of you that are looking for that, it's out there now.
The criteria and will be out to schools shortly before or just after the holiday break. So you'll have it available to work with your local students. We have a few details we still need to finalize on our end, what it will look like when these come back to us later in the spring. So once that's finalized, I'll be able to send that out to all of you, but we're very, very close. And I'm hopeful it will be sent to you via email before Christmas, but if not, it'll be shortly after the holidays.
Another question did come up. Is there what is the application due date or deadline date to submit applications?
That's one of the details that we're trying to decide in-house because of the turnaround time for the personalized letter, and then actually being able to get the pins and the certificates to the schools in a timely manner. More than likely, we will use the service centers to distribute that, and so we're wanting to make sure we don't miss a local event because we had our date to submit things too late. So again, we're learning this first year, so it's not going to be perfect, but we ask you to have patience and then also share with us any suggestions. So
limit to the number of students a school can nominate or be able to nominate?
no, actually this is open and it's considered a rubric that all CTE scholars could achieve. So there's not a limit on the number you would send. You won't be having overarching winners at the level. If the local school validates the local CTE students have reached the criteria, then those students have automatically received that status in a semifinal way, and then you'll submit those to us, and then we'll have the official recognition. We're not looking at the state level to remove any student that has their name submitted. It's a rubric to try to encourage our CTE students to achieve at a more exemplary level. Not that they aren't now, but to document that.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Gayla on any of the pathway questions that she started out with earlier or the CTE Scholar? Okay, I guess not. I'm not sure who's next on in your office there, but whoever wants to jump in next, we don't need to go in any particular designated order. Whoever just wants to.
Okay, thank you.
Again, thank you for joining us, Gayla, and have a nice weekend.
Hello, I'm Angie Feyh, and I'm going to get my presentation pulled up here for you pretty quick. It's just real short. Just wanted to go over the timeline and any changes that we have in the works for our pathway for your application. This season, it's really pretty easy going. There's not a whole lot of things going on that the field will be able to see. It's all things that will simplify things from the inside of the program. Okay, so which button do I push? That one? Okay. All right, so this is our timeline. A lot of you have seen this already. Right now, or actually we're in the very top one where the pathways application system has been opened. You can work on it throughout this whole period of time. make a few changes as you do things within the pathway. And then our due date, of course, is March 15th. But if you can submit it sooner, then that would be excellent, because when you wait till the very last minute, that puts you in a big pile with a whole bunch of other pathways that need to be reviewed. We have been working with IT in our department on some updates that have happened between September and October. We put some already in production. We're still working on a few of them that will assist everybody. The dates are up there on the timeline, and you will have a copy of this if you guys want to have that. Okay, this is one of the only changes that you will be able to visually see in the pathways system. In section 1, there is that change, no change part that you can see the checkbox at the very bottom, and then the summary in section 1 shows up. There's going to be a date of last change made column that's going to be showing up on section 1. That's going to help you as well as the consultant be able to know if the last time a change was made in that section. Because as you know, we're working towards the 3 years for sections to, you have to make some sort of an update every 3 years. But that's one way to keep track of that. So that was literally, I think, the only visual change that you will see for your pathway application. We have added a reminder to section 4 for the articulation agreement screen that is going to be just a statement that asks you to check and make sure that you have the most current articulation agreement selected, state or local one. So there is eventually going to be a date column put in there. But there is a message that's going to flash across, because that is one of our biggest reasons for the CPP SAs to be declined by the consultants. So that's one thing we're trying to help everybody with. KCCMS, Kansas Course Code Management System, is the system that populates the courses into section 3 of your pathway. Currently, we have simplified the matching portion. You're still going to be able to see the full 17 digits in section 3, but the matching between kids and pathways is going to be limited to the first 5 digits. So that should alleviate a whole bunch of errors in your STCO report. And, we'll find out at the end of this year how well that goes, but we're hoping that that works out really well to help everybody who does the kids reporting, and also for student data management also. Okay, just a little quick few things on student data entry. Can be entered as soon as the STCO report is in kids has been done. And then you can put in all the data that is required for Perkins funding. We need you to be cognitive of any student that has not taken a class that current year. So if Joe is a participant or a concentrator and did not take any courses that have CTE course codes, please make sure that you go to the Show All Students link to make sure that Joe is in your list, even though he may not have an STCO record. We're working on changes that will populate and keep the students assigned. So your check mark will not have to be redone every year for every student. We're working on that change, and that will be a big help for everybody. Pathway student follow-up starts in February, goes to April, and this is the status for the concentrators that exited from last year. A lot of people look on Facebook, smaller districts, you know, people just know everybody. Some school districts do submit the seniors, a survey to take before the end of the school year to find out what their plans are for the next year. So that's a suggestion also. I wanted to let you know that the student data management work days are going to be in May and June. We've got a bunch of changes and improvements that we're going to be talking about this year. So I wanted to encourage everyone to sign up for that. Some of the ways that we have the Valley Center Excel spreadsheet that was created that we can share with you if you don't already have that. One thing I found out yesterday, just yesterday, I found out that there's a report in KIDS called the Current Year Credit by Student report. And of course, it says current year, it's just going to show you who has taken what courses, and it also adds up the credits for you. So I thought that was a really good resource. We're currently
Read that report one more time to make sure everybody got that. Current year by credit.
Yes, it's right there. It's the second bullet. That's the current year credit by student report.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I wish I had known about it a long time ago because it was a really good resource and I just found out about it. So we're working, Martin and I are working with IT on the pathways report that exists called the Student Career Course Completion Report. This was dreamed up several years ago, but it's never worked right. So we're still working on that. And once that one's done, it should be able to look back through 6 years of STCO courses to pull you up a comprehensive list of students in your high school and all the CTE courses that they've taken. So that will be really good once we can get that rolling for you guys. Okay, well, that's pretty much it. I wanted to show you that I do have the dates scheduled for the CPP SI Work Days. Salina is January 27th, Hayes, February 24th, Lawrence, March 3rd. We're going to be doing webinars also. And those are to be determined. We could do one, we could do two, whatever the need may be. I mentioned before the student data management work days in June. And I just want to stress how important these work days are. And anybody who asks questions on our help desk, we constantly get ideas to improve pathways for you from our work days and from our help desk questions. So please let us know if there's something that you find out that could be a benefit to everybody in the state. So until then, until I hear from you, have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
One question did come in, and that is, how can they access the Valley Center spreadsheet? Is that something you could send to me and we could put it out with the rest of our references, or is it already on the site someplace? How can they access that?
I can send it to you. Currently, I was just sending it to anybody who emailed the help desk and asked for it. I forgot to mention that, but I can send it to you to post. That would be probably a better idea.
Okay, we'll just have you send it to me, and then we'll get it posted with our stuff so those that are viewing today can have access to it. Thank you so much, Angie.
Sure, thank you.
And this is Jay Scott. I was hoping to jump in. Peggy, I know that you're anxious to go next, but I was wondering if I could jump in here with some 17-18 pathway changes.
Sure.
Well, thanks, Peggy. Good morning to everybody. I want to thank Jody and Cleela and Joni for hosting these CTE webinars. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, I believe we can.
Okay. I think that I was just going to go over the CTE Sunflower. We've got a project going underway right now with that Sunflower. We're both renaming and redesigning that the CTE Sunflower, kind of our seminal document for CTE in Kansas. And undertaken both renaming and redesigning it, and in a way to make it more of a K-12 model, and then also to align it further with business and industry. So I don't know if you've got,
I'm gonna pull that up for you.
or Jody, if you can pull that up. Yeah, the version that's out there right now is under a major redesign, and so we're gaining some feedback right now, in fact, on a new model, the redesign. But and I'm sorry, I can't. I'm on the road, so I'm unable to see if that model is up. But
Yes,
I
it
can
is. I have it on the screen at this time.
Okay, thanks, Joni. So what you see there is going to look much different by next year. But I just want to take you through some of the nomenclature changes that we made. I'll start in the centerpiece. We previously, the older model was, I think it was titled academic and technical foundational knowledge and skills, something like that. We consolidated that into career success skills. A lot of people call them employability skills or 21st century or soft, hard skills. We consolidated all that into career success skills that really students need to be successful in whatever career field they choose. So what you see in that centerpiece are three broad categories that will be linked. And when you click on, for instance, applied knowledge, it'll take you to more specific employability skills or career success skills and examples of those skills. So it'll be an interactive framework in that centerpiece. And what we've done with the career success skills is we've combined several sets of career success skill models that are out there, like the career ready practices from the Common Career Technical Corps, the employability skills framework from the U.S. Department of Ed, the community conversations that Dr. Watson and Brad Neuenswander went out and had. We pulled all the data and all the career success skills that were listed in those models and combined them into one. So moving out from the center, we renamed and actually created a new career field. Those are the petals. And for instance, design, production, and repair used to be in Peggy's area. So we were intentional about changing the names of the career fields so that those were something that K-6, the elementary schools out there could relate to, elementary students. So that's the reason for the renaming of the career fields. We wanted them to be broad, easy to understand. So we've got a couple new ones: design, production, and repair, media and technology. We added a new career field, public services. And then we also moved and renamed a few clusters. So the cluster level is a good fit for your middle grade students. You may notice, and many people have noticed, where's STEM? Well, in the redesign, we're actually going to have this STEM will be the stem to the flower. So we heard over and over that STEM was somewhat limited as a cluster, and that every one of our career fields involves STEM principles. Ag, business, media, technology, all of those involve STEM principles. So in a way to broaden and strengthen STEM education in Kansas, we wanted to show that how STEM is connected to all pathways. So it'll be part of the redesign. You'll see a STEM actually connecting to the CTE flower. We also so STEM was a cluster name. Again, we took that out and we replaced it with engineering, a more specific cluster title. And then we moved some of the pathways that were underneath STEM, like biomedical and biochemistry, to health and bioscience cluster. And then we also moved the energy pathway under ag, but I think we're in place to move it back under engineering after talking with an energy workforce consortium in Kansas. So just some highlights of changes made to the flower. I want everybody to know that what they see currently, that's going to be redesigned completely, and we'll hope to have that ready for 17-18. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Jay, can you hear me? This is Jody.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is that a couple people asked some questions. If for the next year, if you're moving energy back to engineering, is there anything we have to worry about if we don't have if our schools do not have an agricultural pathway? Are we okay to keep energy, or is that, because I haven't been into the pathways yet to know for the energy?
No, there are no issues with that. I mean, we didn't change the names of any of our pathways. We just moved them around under different clusters. So there's really, in your pathway application, and I checked on this yesterday with Martin, but in your pathway application, it doesn't really matter what cluster the pathway is under. It's just that, you know, the energy pathway is the energy pathway. It doesn't matter if it's under an ag cluster or under engineering as far as at the high school level. So there shouldn't be any issues with that.
So the question at one point came up when currently it's sitting in the agriculture, and so they don't have to be part of FFA because energy's sitting in the agriculture cluster. Is that correct?
That's correct. We haven't, you know, we really haven't, we made that move under the ag cluster. I think that was, I don't know how long it was, Peggy, but we had it under there for just a few months, and then heard from the Energy Workforce Consortium that actually partnered with us in developing that energy pathway, came back to us and said, hey, most of the jobs that we're in need of are more engineering type technician jobs. So when they said that, we went back to the drawing board and moved the energy pathway back under engineering, because we want to make sure it's aligned with business and industry. So the fact that a school wouldn't have an FFA chapter associated with their energy pathway, that's not an issue.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Jay on the new infographics for 17-18?
Yeah, I got a question. One question I have is Cleveland. On that energy, which student organization would we associate with that pathway then? Would that be TSA then?
You know, with energy pathway and that's what I love about our CTSOs. We have a lot of that you can relate to many different pathways. I could see some of those things with, depending on the student's interest in the energy pathway, they could fit with Skills USA. It could fit with TSA. You know, FFA wouldn't be a bad fit as well. So there are multiple options, I think, for schools with their energy pathway and with a related CTSO.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Jay. This is Max at 410, and I'd like to ask you a quick question. As these things are being moved around, are we changing any of the teacher licensure requirements, or are they pretty much staying the same?
Good question. They are staying the same. So regardless of where we move it on the chart under clusters, you know, we don't have, in Kansas, obviously everybody's aware of this, but we have course licensure requirements. So, you know, the only way that licensure would change would be if there were changes to the course license. So the fact that it's under a different cluster, it has no bearing on the licensure to teach those courses in the energy pathway.
Thank you.
You bet. The struggle we have is who can teach those courses, because there are, as we went through that pathway, there's some courses on there that, you know, that I've never even heard of. And so when we're doing that and we're trying to figure out who can teach it, so we took the approach to be really broad with the licensure, multiple licensed areas can teach a lot of the energy pathway courses, just to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help schools implement those pathways.
All right, thank you for giving
You
us
bet.
that.
Thank you guys. Everybody have a great Friday. Enjoy the weekend. Take care.
Okay, I don't know, Peggy, if you were ready to go next, or if someone else is gonna share it from the KSDE team.
Yeah, it'll be me. We're pulling up the PowerPoint here. Okay. Is that viewable for most of you, or?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Okay. The first thing I'm going to talk about for just a couple of minutes is the statewide articulation agreements, just kind of a quick update. I've got 2 slides. The first one is on new agreements. We've been working very hard to get agreements set up that are statewide agreements, and we have several that within the last 8 months or so we have put in place that are either in effect for this school year or for next school year. With Barton Community College, we have a brand new agreement in biotechnology and agriculture. With Highland Community College, these are the first ones we've had with them. There is welding agreements to go into their welding program, either through our ag power pathways or through our manufacturing pathways. And we also developed one with them for our architecture and construction that can lead to either their drafting program or their construction programs. We also have brand new ones, and again, this is a first-time school with Dodge City Community College. We have one with teaching training pathway, one for engineering, one for early childhood, and one for the family, community, and consumer services pathway. So 4 new agreements with Dodge City. We're happy to have both Highland and Dodge City on board with these now. And then our third brand new school would be WOTC in Wichita. We have a brand new agreement for correction, security, and law enforcement that leads into their police science program. Flint Hills Tech College, we have an additional new one with them. It goes from our high school construction pathways and leads into their industrial engineering program. So those are going to work more, not necessarily with the carpentry classes, but it'll be for those skilled mechanical trades classes, the HVAC, electrical, those types of courses to lead into their industrial engineering program. As far as updated agreements, this fall, we have updated the teaching training agreement with ESU, Emporia State University. So if you're using that agreement, you may want to go online and see what changes were made there. We updated all of the agreements with Barton Community College, so you'll need to recheck those. And then we updated 13, and in addition to the new one, we have updated 13 other agreements with Flint Hills Tech College. Now, we did have an agreement with them leading from our high school construction pathways into their construction program, and this year they closed their construction program. So that agreement is no longer valid, and Angie has removed that from the pop-up list, pre-populated list on the CPP SI application. So if you were using the statewide with Flint Hills Tech for their construction program, you will need to look at something else. Okay. Any questions? Oh, and new news, especially for those of you out in the Colby area. Wasn't that Colby Community College?
Yes.
Yesterday, Martin and I had a nice lengthy conversation with some folks from Colby Community College, and they are wanting to jump on this bandwagon. And I think the first one they're looking at creating is with marketing. So we can hopefully within the next month, we will have a brand new agreement with another brand new institution with Colby Community College for marketing. And then we assume it will grow from there to start encompassing some other programs that they have on their campus. So that's exciting. Any questions on articulation agreements?
I think we have one, any work with Butler Community College, any updates from them?
From Butler? No, you know, we've met with them 2 or 3 times over the last 3 or 4 years, and they're always very excited, and then we never hear anything else. So, you know, we would love to work with Butler to create some agreements, but it's kind of like with WOTC. You know, we met with them 3 or 4 times too over a several year period, and they were all excited and we're going to do something. And then it finally took one of their instructors, the police science instructor, who just did it, you know, and sent it in. So I think with Butler, it's probably like WOTC. It's just a matter of us connecting with the right person to get the ball rolling, because usually with an institution, once we get one, then we can get several others. So, you know, if you're interested in a statewide with Butler, you might try from your end saying, hey, why don't you talk to the folks at KSDE about getting some statewide agreements.
Any updates from Hutchinson Community College on any agreements from them?
They have never expressed any interest in doing statewide agreements with Hutch.
I might touch about that. I've talked to Hutch a number of times about it, and they kind of were talking about it, and then they just found out they could extend their current one-to-one agreements, and after that it just keeps getting dropped. So I think with a little request maybe from the field other than us, it might help prod them along that route. But it seems like every time I talk to them, it's a different person in that position. So they've had a little maybe turnover, or it's not a high priority at this moment.
It seems like with most of the new schools that come on board, like Highland and Dodge City, what usually starts it out is we get a phone call from someone at their institution saying, hey, we see you've got everybody's agreements posted on your website. How can we get our agreements posted on KSD's website? And we say, well, you just need to create a statewide agreement. And, you know, they see other colleges having their agreements posted there publicly on the website, and they wonder, why aren't ours there? Well, it's because all we post is the statewide. So that's usually kind of a good incentive for them to jump on board too. But, you know, there are some schools that jump right in with both feet, like Barton, you know, right off the first bat. That first year, they were the first one to join in, and they did like 20 of them. And others, it's just, you know, one at a time, and slowly they come on board. But I think some encouragement from the high school end of it would maybe help in a lot of respects.
I would support that. I know I've been working with Colby Community College for a number of years trying to encourage them to reach out, and I'm glad to hear that they have made contact. They do have some new administration there, and so that's great to hear. I'll get back with them and let them know we're very excited to have them on board and look forward to more articulation agreements. And again, those of you that are looking at those particular post-secondaries, maybe drop in their office and ask them about it. And Peggy, are you the contact person for them to reach out to when they first get started?
Yeah, myself and Martin Kollman. We're both working on those statewide agreements, so they can contact either one of us.
Great. So that will help continue to grow that bank of statewide articulation agreements.
Yeah, we're up to somewhere around 120 right now.
Peggy?
Yes.
This is Deb in Salina, and I don't know, it may be on here. I'm trying to pull it up on my other computer and I'm not finding it. If we have local articulation agreements, and this is David Cooper that does that in our district, but do you have a record of local articulation agreements also?
Not posted on our website.
Okay, I know they're not posted, but I was just thinking, what does it take to get a local articulation agreement to possibly that institution work with the state to make it a statewide articulation? Do you know?
That's usually where we start with, you know,
okay.
when we first talk to a post-secondary, we say, you know, look, we know you've got agreements with, you know, 10, 15, 20 different high schools. And if you look at them, they're probably all the same.
Exactly.
So why not write one and make it applicable statewide? And that's usually what they do, you know, once they realize that it is simply that easy.
Okay. And then I was also thinking about, I don't know, we don't do, I guess, a really very good job of making sure our instructors are aware of these articulation agreements, both local and state, because I've been in this position almost 3 years and I'm not aware of really any student that's taken advantage of these. So I'm just curious to know how other districts really are making sure that the students and instructors are aware of these.
Well, you know, theoretically, when you fill out the CPP SI, you have to put on there which at least one statewide, you know, or
right.
But unfortunately, it's not always the instructors that fill out those forms.
Right.
If that message doesn't travel, you know, on to them, then it does get lost in the wash. What I try to encourage schools to do in every local district, any agreement, whether it's a local agreement or a statewide agreement, any agreement that your students in your school could benefit from, they need to be posted on your local website.
Okay, thank you.
Or at least post a link on your website to our page.
Okay.
Lists all of them. In fact, we now on our website page where we post all the statewide agreements, there is a link there to a crosswalk. It's a one-page document that lists the pathways down the side. It lists the colleges, universities across the top, and it has an X wherever we have a statewide agreement.
Okay.
One-page deals, very, very nice document.
I just pulled that up. I will link that to my webpage. Thank you.
Yeah.
Another alternative might be as we go into individual plans of study that your student's individual plan of study there may be a notation there that they do have an articulation agreement in that certain pathway.
Great idea, Jenny.
Explore.
That would be wonderful.
Okay.
Okay. Very quickly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the certifications, the KPAC. You know, last year we started the actual KPAC report as an authenticated application report where you go in and report any student that has achieved some type of professional certification. And to go along as a resource guide with that, we have now developed the KPAC list. And yeah, if you want to, that would be great. The KPAC list was designed just as a resource document for all of you to use when you are looking at what can I use in my pathway as a end of pathway assessment or as a comprehensive certification to help my student reach completer status, or as a certification to use to get my pathway approved. This document contains all of those, and we've got it up here on the screen. It is posted on the website, but over on the left-hand side, you can see it lists, it's broken out by pathway, even color-coded. And then the second column tells the organization or company that provides the assessment or the certification and website information linkage there so you can go in and actually look at it. The next column gives the actual name of the assessment or the credential that the student can take or earn there. And then you have 3 columns on the right. The first one is called End of Pathway Assessment. Anything that has an X in this column can be used as an end of pathway assessment for your pathway and can help your student reach completer status. The next column is the comprehensive certifications that also count for completer status. In order for the certification to count, it has to be comprehensive in that it has to cover the gamut of the pathway. It can't be like the OSHA 10 because all that checks for is safety certification. It has to be a certification that covers the pathway. So if there's an X in this column, it is a certification that will help the student achieve completer status. And all of these, we are adding to this all the time. This is not a static document. It will be changing. So and it's like 14 pages long. So don't go in and print it out. Just access it online because about every month it'll probably update. But like you can see, home health aid for your health pathways. the EMT, certified nurse aide, certified med aide. All of those are certifications for health pathway that would help your student reach completer status. The third column over on the right is just simply a list of all professional certifications that we've been able to locate that have value to the student and to business industry. Anything with an X in this column is one that you can use in section 4 on your CPP SI to get your pathway approved. Okay. So this is just a resource document. Like I said, we're always changing it. If you in the field find a good certification or something you think would be helpful as an end of pathway assessment, please get us that information so we can look it over and see about adding to this list. So questions on KPAC?
Peggy, this is Cleo. I just have an add-on. While I was at ACTE in Las Vegas, I talked with the Manufacturing Skills Council, which, you know, that's a certification for manufacturing. They have a new one now that is supposed to be really user-friendly for high school students for the manufacturing pathway. I'm going to do some work to get the information and everything. I'll be back in touch with you, but I just thought you might like to be aware of that.
Well, MSSC should be on here somewhere. I know we've got NAMS. We should have the manufacturing skills certificate. There's a bunch in here for manufacturing. See, there's a whole column of them, a lot of them for HVAC and stuff, but I'll double check because I thought we had MSSC on here, but send me that if you would. Well, we have certified protection technician. Yeah, we have it over here as a one you can use to get your pathway approved, but not as a completer status. Yeah, those are going to be kind of tricky because our manufacturing pathway can cover 4 different areas: welding, machining, mechanical drafting, and mass production. And the MSSC only covers that one area of manufacturing. So it's one we'll have to look at. We did get welding on there, but of course it would have to be for students whose primary coursework in their pathway was welding. But yeah, we'll look at that. Other questions? Go back. Okay, let's switch back here. I've got one more slide I'm going to look at, and then what about the changes or the problems, common problems? Oh, there we go. I'll do this one real quickly, and I know the others can probably add to this list. We were asked to speak to you just a little bit about what are some common errors that we often find in the CPP SAs. And so this is a little list I put together, and like I said, I'm sure that Martin and Stacy and everybody else can probably add to this. The main errors we find in going through the pathway applications are, first of all, that the improvement goals are not written in the SMART goal format. We do have documents on our website that talk about the SMART goals and how to write things in SMART goals, and we'll be perfectly willing to work with any school on that too if they want some more assistance there. Not putting dates on the improvement plan. I think that the box that Angie talked about what date you last made changes, that's going to help. But a lot of times we can't tell from the way it's written what year you wrote that plan in. So we don't know if you're in your first year, second year, third year. So having dates on the improvement plan really helps. Another common problem is that the post-secondary institution that's listed as the title on your program of study is different from the institution whose articulation agreement you have posted. So you need to make sure those line up because your grade 13 classes for that institution need to match with the articulation agreement. Another one is people just simply not reading the statewide agreements to see if their pathway courses actually qualify them to use that agreement. Another one is that if you have an individual articulation agreement posted and it's outdated, you need to make sure that those are updated. And then having more than one post-secondary listed on one program of study. Because you do a program of study for a college, say Washburn Institute of Technology, and then down at the bottom where you're listing articulation agreements, you might list 4 or 5 articulations with 4 or 5 different institutions. There should just be one post-secondary school listed on one program of study. If you want to list more than one program of study, you can do that. But you shouldn't have 5 or 6 different schools' agreements listed under that one school's program of study. Anybody think of anything else?
The biggest one was articulation dates. That was, for me, that was the one I had the most.
Yeah, Martin said the dates on the articulation agreements was his biggest one. So, but yeah. Questions on that? Martin,
All right.
you're up.
Okay. I scrunched down a little bit so you can see me. I'm a little taller than Peggy for some reason.
The screen.
Yeah. What I'm going to talk about is something that's currently in the process of being updated as we speak. We just had a meeting on this, but the Kansas Career Navigator is a new website that's a collaboration between KSDE, K-Board Commerce, and Department of Labor. So this is kind of like one of them double unicorn things that rarely ever happen. But we're sharing all the data that we all have that relates and putting it out in a public place that you guys all have access to. This is something that's free out there. You don't have it, but it's a great resource for teachers, for students, for parents, for the community as far as getting what's the labor market, what careers are out there, and making that connection to education and training. So right now, let me go bring up the website. Right now, it's in the first stage, which is just more towards career and post-secondary. We had a little more push from the Commerce and Labor, and especially since they were doing web design, we let them go ahead and do it. But right now, it looks at it kind of from the workforce centers. You've got basically your few regions here, and the biggest one, of course, the orange is going to be the western half. But you click any of these, and it shows you what the top 10 careers or occupations are in that region. And so from a user standpoint, let's say we've got someone that's interested in farming and ranching. They can come down and click there, and it will show you some basic information. Now, they don't have a lot for farmer and ranchers because it was all over the place. But if you go to some of the others like accountants and auditors, it'll tell you the entry level in Kansas, the median experience. So this is a great talking point with kids when they want to see, well, what jobs are in my area and what's out there and kind of what kind of money can you make. And then once you click on the title of this occupation, it gives a little more detail on it as what they might do, and then all the post-secondary that offer programs in those areas. And you can click on one of these and go straight into that area and see what it has for accounting at that institution. The part that's coming up that really connects with us is the secondary part. And there will be, let me roll back here to the beginning. Instead of being for the workforce areas, this will be a county by county link. We'll have a second one for education. And as a school district or a parent or a community member, you can go into that specific county and click on it. And then it's going to bring up all the high schools and districts within that county and the post-secondary that are associated with that. And then they can go in and see what pathways are available for those school districts. And then they can also see what classes are available in those pathways. So, and I can go in and I can see these articulation agreements and a lot of the information that we provide on pathways. That's where this information is coming from. And then it shows what programs at the secondary level are going to match up with that pathway. So you get that crosswalk or easy transition. And then it also connects to the occupations that are out there. Now, in this case, we've only got the top 10 right now. But in the next update, which is going to roll out this month, it will have all the occupations in there and rank them by that region based on Department of Labor data. So this becomes a really strong tool as far as working with kids to show that connection from the classes they may be taking, that it hooks to a pathway, goes to a program, and what careers kind of match with that. So it's a good free tool. It's something you can plug in with your individual plan of study. It's all free. It's accessible out there right now. We're making the last kind of tweaks and changes to the secondary part. So by when you come back from break this next year, I hope that it's up and active. It's supposed to be. So you should have access to that. But this will be, I think, a really great tool for schools and districts in the community. Questions?
Not seeing any posted questions. If anyone wants to unmic and ask a question, you certainly may do so, or we'll move on if you have more questions. One thing when we, okay, one question did come through, Martin, is there any work or any progress towards connecting this information to career cruising? Or is there going to be the link on career cruising? What could you share with us with that?
It will not be part of career cruising since that's a commercial package, but I'm betting it could be a resource link that would be available in career cruising here once it gets a little more established, that we could drop it in and have it as part of that package in that sense that it would link to this website. This one really is the 4 different agencies working together, departments, and it connects the Kansas Works and a lot of the job opportunities. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for more than K-12. It really branches out to our adult learners, adult workers, and students that are wanting to get into positions. So it's really for the whole state. So.
Thank you. Let's see.
Hey, Martin, this is Jody.
Yeah.
Hello. Wrong way. I wanted you to really hear me. Okay, a couple things there. All the people who are on here, we have quite a few people on here. One thing we noticed in career cruising, which this will take place of, and I do want to talk to you guys about that with career cruising, is that when you get into technical or get into the community college side of it, the kids are having to go then to external links into the actual college. And so this information, so schools who are using career cruising, I'm just going to warn you, it's great information for your upper level post-secondary, but when you get into technical and community college, Hutchinson Community Colleges was the only one that we found that you could click and actually get financial information, get their programs, those type of things, and everybody else was taking us externally, which as a high school student, when you're doing a class project, you don't want them to have to keep going out and out. You want to get that information and research done. So I will just let you know, this is going to be very powerful, depending on that career cruising, you can kind of match that, because we want our kids to have that one-stop shop, so then they can research it. So just a note to whoever the State Department can wave that magic wand, something to think about.
Yeah, this is not a replacement for career cruising. This is not a replacement for the IPS. It's a supplement in my mind. We did take the easy way out at this time for when we get to the programs, we identify them and what college they are, but we push it towards that site because we don't want to try and maintain and upkeep it at this time. But it's more of the colleges will take care of. That's the same thing, all of it. It's just there's so much information that's being updated and changing that it's a little bit of a challenge, I think, for us at this time to pull that in and make it where it's that direct link to that content. It's more of a sharing agreement. A lot of the post-secondary institutions to get that funneled in. So it's a future concern, but right now, yeah, we hope to get it in career cruising as a resource, so just a link they can go to and use it, make it easy. But it's out there right now if you want to look around it. And then when you come back from school, see the updates and changes for the kansascareernav.gov. And the gov is the hardest thing I have remembering. I keep trying to type Oregon and it's .gov. So.
Well, one thing I might add, we did have the Department of Labor on one of our early fall webinars. And one of the areas that they did stress is that if you go to your region and the job areas that you know because you live in that community area are not being posted, or you know there's a high need but it's not showing up, please encourage your business people to complete the survey that comes from the Department of Labor, because that's how this information is populated. So if they're not sending in the information, then it's not available to us and our students to use to help guide and direct students in career pathways. So as you all go into your own community areas and you're going, well, I know we really have a need for teachers, and teachers isn't even coming up on the list. Well, that could be because nobody's completing the survey and sending it in. So you might encourage your people to do that.
that annual survey, at least from the Department of Labor people that we've talked to, only has a couple thousand responses, between 2,000 and 3,000. And I want to say it was like 2,500 responses last year, which, you know, there's a lot of small businesses that there's only a couple people, and so maybe they're not reporting, or they're, you know, it's just not something they do every year. That's what drives a lot of this. But I think as far as what we got, this has the most current and accurate data that we can get at this point, but doing that will make it better. And I think when we get to this level where we have all the occupations that relate, that they have information, it's going to make it even more powerful instead of just having that 10. So.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Oops, wrong way. Am I going the wrong way?
No, I jumped forward.
Okay. Natalie's next.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In the business area, this year we're reviewing the business management and administration cluster, and it includes the general management and entrepreneurship. Some of the things we've talked about, we've had one initial meeting and we need to get back, is possibly stranding the general management and the entrepreneurship so that they would be separated out, because we do have some courses in there that are within some of the other pathways that are very beneficial for entrepreneurship. But if you're just looking for a general management strand, it may be somewhat cumbersome. So those are some of the things we're talking about. If any of you have this pathway and you would like to see something added, please let us know. We have 14 people on our committee. We have business and industry and post-secondary from Kansas State University and Fort Hays State University, as well as 8 teachers across the state. So be sure and let us know if you have any input in this pathway. Another project that I've been working on this year is developing a toolkit and guidelines for job shadowing. We'd like to encourage all middle and high schools to encourage the participation in a job shadow program. We've defined a job shadow as a brief work-based experience for all students, not just students in CTE pathways, but all students, so that they can get an experience into a specific career. I know we have a lot of great work-based simulated experiences in our schools, but this would actually be an on-site experience in business and industry. What would that look like? The students would have interactions with clients or customers. And this is a key item. It could be a group experience with multiple students in the same job shadow, as well as a one-to-one experience. And why do we feel it's important to job shadow in high school? We feel there's an alarming trend that students are career exploring in post-secondary, which can lead to high student loan debt and a delay in completing their credentials. We feel that it's valuable to job shadow in high school because it's a safe, authentic look into an industry. And it's important for students to get out and reinforce the career path they believe they're heading towards, or rethink that career if they get in and shadow and realize this isn't really something that they want to do for the rest of their lives. So how can the job shadow program be built? We've talked a lot about the IPS, the individual plan of study. It's important for the students to identify their top 2 or 3 career fields. We feel it's important to have orientation for staff, for the students, as well as the business and industry who are participating. So that's something we're working on, is to develop a toolkit as well as guidelines. We feel it's important to partner with regional and local workforce, such as your chamber and your established economic development. Then they can help reach out to businesses and make that contact within your area. We have been following Newton's model for job shadow. They have a job shadow internship program in place. The job shadow is not a course, but it's facilitated by their CTE director, assistant principal, Melinda Rangel. We'd like to thank Melinda for sharing her resources and her model for job shadowing. What I'm going to do is quickly go through some of the documentation and the process that she uses. Currently, students express their interest in job shadowing to Melinda. and she has a meeting with them. This is the checklist that she uses. And these documents can be provided to you. We can send these out to you. She's agreed to share these with other districts. But this is the staff checklist to go through from beginning at the time that you discuss career interests with students, clear through the end, following up with a thank you note written to business after the student has gone out. This is a student form the student meets and expresses their top 2 career interests and says if they have a business they're interested in shadowing. And a key item, any student in this district must provide transportation. So it says, do they have transportation available, and would they be able to drive out of the city of Newton? A student must sign saying they'll abide by the rules and regulations, and they must follow the schools of the high school when they're out with business and industry. The parents must sign a form so they're aware that their student will be going off campus and who they will be shadowing for. And be aware that that student will have follow-up information, be evaluated by the business, and that they'll be sending a thank you note to that business. At the bottom of this form is a consent release form. The parent must sign and say they're aware that their student is participating and that they're releasing the employer or business and the school from any and all liabilities. They must sign saying they're aware that their student is responsible for transportation to and from the job site. So staff follows up and places the student with business and industry. A key part in their job shadow program is Kansas Workforce One will help make those connections within 30 miles of Newton. And it states what time the student should arrive, who they should contact, recommended attire, as well as lunch plans. It reminds the student to arrive 10 minutes prior to the job shadow. And if they happen to be sick that day, they are to call the business as well as the school and make them aware of that. During the job shadow, the students are required to interview as well as observe, and the business and industry would be provided a list of questions so they would be aware of this prior. Following the job shadow, the business will evaluate the student. Many of those employability skills will be looked at, such as was the student punctual? Was their dress appropriate? Were they courteous? Did they have good communication skills? And did they conduct an interview with the business? So this would be a piece that could be placed in the IPS digital portfolio. The student in turn will evaluate the business. They will say, do you feel that you were welcome? Do you feel that the time you were there was too short, too long, or about right? And would you recommend this employer to another student? A student summary is required. This is a reflection on their job shadow. This would also be a piece that could be placed in their digital portfolio in their IPS. And the CTE staff will evaluate the student to make sure that they had gone through all the steps, the process from beginning until end, following up with a completed summary, evaluation, and thank you note. One partnership that's very powerful that Newton High School has is with Kansas Workforce One. This is their flyer for last year. They held a Building Bridges event in which they invited parents, students, educators, as well as business and industry across all different skill levels and representation in their community. It brought everyone together, and they developed a database of 65 business and industry within their area that said, yes, I would be happy to come into the classroom and speak, or I would be happy to invite students out to job shadow or intern in our business and community. And Workforce One helped facilitate this event, and we feel this is an important resource that schools could tap into in your individual communities. So the job shadow project outcomes, this is what we plan to do. We plan to send out a job shadow survey to all districts by February 1st. What we want to know is, do you currently provide job shadow experiences for your student? At what age do you provide these experiences? And we're asking if you have any documents or a process you would like to share that we could review as we prepare a job shadow toolkit that will be available by the end of this school year. We want to develop an employability skills checklist that the students would review and have training on before they go out into business and industry, so that business and industry would be aware the students had training. And finally, we want to develop a job shadow training model for next school year. We feel it's important to train staff, students, as well as business and industry, so they would know what to expect, be fully aware of the process, and have buy-in into the job shadowing program. So that's a quick run through the job shadow project we're working on. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer that. One thing we would like to ask, if any of you are currently allowing students to job shadow, please email me or contact me. I would like to come out and visit or talk to you about the process that you're implementing.
Thank you, Natalie. Any questions for Natalie on the job shadowing or changes to the business pathways? And she's posted up her contact information if you have that. I would like that. We're good. Thank you, Natalie. Yes. Stacy, I believe, are you next?
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm next, and I think I'm last and least at this point. I have a very short update of information to share with you from the media and technology area. My comments are directed towards the AV communications pathway and the IT career cluster. So four short items. The IT career cluster review committee will continue with a final meeting in February, and then we'll be passing on our recommendations for pathway adjustments to the Kansas Advisory Committee for Career and Technical Education in April. Number two, I just want to announce that there are many opportunities coming up for professional development, one of which is the February CTE conference in Manhattan, and I'm hoping to meet with many teachers in the IT career cluster at that February 7th and 8th conference. Notably for that conference, AV communication teachers will be meeting for a curriculum swap meet. And I think that'll be the first time that we'll be doing that. So it should be a great opportunity for AV communication teachers to come together. To celebrate Computer Science Education Week, CTE announced mini grant opportunities this week, and those are with SDAC, who will be hosting the Introducing Computer Coding in Your Classroom course on February 13th and 14th in Hutchinson. Those mini grants are available to offset the cost of attendance. They can be found on the KSDE website, on the CTE IT webpage, and are listed as grant 51180. Any questions about those? Thanks to Clelia for organizing that activity. My final item is just to draw attention to CPAS. They're scheduling item writing and review for AV Communications end of pathway assessment this semester. Teachers are encouraged to examine the test blueprint, which is found on the CPAS website, in order to ensure that their curriculum is aligned to the identified competencies. Zach Irwin is the lead at CPAS, and anyone interested in having a voice in the development of those items should contact him to get on the short list at the CPAS website. There are more details. I know I talked faster than I meant to, so if I was hard to understand, I'll entertain questions at this time.
And Stacy and the group, I just have one addition, and that is on that computer coding. When you enroll, if you're a PC school, you'll probably want the piece of equipment, the and so you can test your coding. But if you're an Apple Mac school, you'll still be able to use the emulator, but you don't need that piece. So you might want to use your remaining grant dollars for subs instead of the Nexus 7. Just let us know so that we order accordingly.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Clelia. And I would encourage people who are interested in participating to get in touch with you and just make sure that they've got the latest flash updates, upgrades to software, operating systems, because it would be a shame to waste that time dealing with individual configuration issues and slowing down the rest of the class.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
Hey, Stacy, this is Jody. We've never officially met. One of the things with your group of amazing teachers across the state of Kansas is that as we just returned from Vegas, AV communications is very underrepresented. And so getting some of the Kansas amazing teachers to really do the professional outside of Kansas and share what they're doing. I didn't take the AV teacher from Cheney this year just because that's what we've taken in the past. There hasn't been a lot in that pathway for us. So that's one thing as we evaluate at the ACT conferences and those type of things, is that it's very underrepresented. And so just a thought that if you have great teachers that you know are doing great things in Kansas, really get them and encourage them to put a proposal in coming up for the next year's conference in Nashville, because it needs to be there. So just a thought, and you would know who those are.
I'm working on knowing who those are, Jody, and that's a great suggestion. And I think we've got some time to do some dry runs for our presentations before the ACTE conference comes around. I think we need to get presentations lined out. It's probably too late for the February conference, but I think MACE has some slots that are still available for the Midwest Association of Computers in Education in Manhattan, Kansas. We could certainly get some presentations at MACE, and then look at our own professional organization here in Kansas next August for the CTE conference there. And that would give us a chance to practice before we end up in Nashville. And great suggestions, and I'll get on that.
Okay.
I know there are some specific AV communication presentations going on at the February conference this year. They have not had a lot in the past. This year they did, and she made a point of commenting on that to me. So it should be some good representation for all the different pathways, I think.
I think there was one question that came through, and that is, what CPAS assessment is being written?
Okay, AV Communications has an end of pathway assessment that has been blueprinted, and the shell or structure of it has been designed. So I believe that the timeline has us writing items in the first quarter of 2017 and then reviewing items in the second quarter of 2017. And I'm not sure if there will be a pilot of those during the next school year, but it should be ready to roll out statewide for use in the 2018-2019 school year. There are a list of different tests being developed by CPAS, and I know Natalie wants to plug one of her tests as well.
Comprehensive business and finance are on the same schedule as the AV also.
Great. Thank you. So did you remember the dates for next year's ACTE that came up as a question?
December 6th through 9th.
Okay, so the next year's ACTE, December 6th through the 9th, and that'll be in Nashville. So maybe those of you that are looking out that far on your calendar, you can add that in or put it in your budget categories for next year. So we hope we have more. We had quite a you at the conference this year representing Kansas. And that will be something that we'll probably try to reach out to those of you that attended the ACT conference and share some of your breakout sessions. But are there any more questions for our consultants, or is there anyone else in the room there that wanted to speak again?
No, as I said, I'm the last and the least of the consultants presenting information today.
Well, we certainly thank you and your team there at KSDE for joining us this morning and giving us the latest updates. This is always helpful to know these early, and as we plan and prepare for many of the things that need to roll out in the spring, we're much more knowledgeable about what's going to be coming up our way. As far as our team here, we'll be back in January, and we'll be reaching out hopefully to those of you that attended the ACTE conference and maybe have some updates and people sharing some of the sessions that they went to at the conference and bringing back information and ideas and topics to those of us in Kansas from the national level. So that'll be our January meeting, and we will join you then. In the meantime, we want to make sure everybody has an enjoyable winter break, enjoys time with family and friends, and some break time. Is there anyone here? You have some other things?
Well, Joni, one thing I'd just like to make sure, because I do have to get the veneer stuff ordered, please get enrolled for the veneer hands-on biology as soon as you can, because I'd like to put that order in before Christmas break so that the probes and everything will be here that we need to work with the week of January 17th. And we do have graduate science credit arranged for that. So that would help a lot of people in the health science area as well as regular science and engineering area as well, because we do some things of that. Stacy already mentioned the computer coding, and then we'll have the animal anatomy in March. So I just want to make, but the one that's on the heavy radar is veneer hands-on biology. Because I do have to get those discounted material packages ordered.
Okay, just a couple of things. I want to make sure, it's kind of my brainstorming idea is that there's about 55 of us that went to ACT conference, that getting those people to come back with like one or two pieces, getting resources, because the resources are live out there now, and you don't have to be logged in to get the resources from ACTE conference. So you can skim down and look at some of the handouts and presentations that were available too. So that's a great resource. So I think that all of us can bring back a piece and share that out, and you guys could benefit from all of us. And then the second piece is that kind of going up with off of what Natalie was talking about is in January here at SDAC, we're having Cody Lee and we're having Melinda actually here to talk about the business and community connections, how to build that into your IPS, and how that kind of is all working together. And then I obtained some additional information at the national conference from an organization as well. So kind of putting our thoughts and ideas together and giving you that booklet to walk away with, and a little bit of time to really kind of brainstorm who in your community can you tap into. And Melinda and Cody will kind of walk you through the kind of what Natalie was talking about, the models that can be used, how to adapt those, and then job shadowing opportunities in your school. And then all I'll be talking about in January will be that it's our actual first year at Genie actually doing this. So I'm going to talk about the ugly side of what not to do and what we're going to learn. And so the professionals in there, they're going to give you some information. So kind of backing up what Natalie said, this is a big item for individual plans of study right now. And if we can get those on the back end for those students and get those experiences, I think we're going to see a lot of change in our engagement and hope in our schools. So I think that's all I have.
I think so. Well, again, we've just run over just by a few minutes, but we do want to thank you all for joining in. And if there are other people that would like to join our monthly webinars, just let us know, and we'll add their email addresses to our emails that we send out inviting those of you to our next session. So Have a great holiday, and we'll see you after the first of the year in January. Have a great day.